Disappointments. Anybody ever had them? You ever had a disappointment? Look, Natalie and I, we don't talk about, and listen, Brother David made mention a while ago about me preparing for a message and going before God, but I want y'all to know the same applies to Nat when it comes to worship. She don't just come up with some songs. She prays throughout the week. She seeks God for that. So that when she brings, and look, most of the songs, if you listen, she actually rewrites them. Okay? Because there may be something in there that maybe it's not really scripturally sound. But lyrically it sounded good, so somebody might have written it. But scripturally it's not sound. So she'll rewrite them. If there's anything in there out of order, she'll rewrite it. And then she worships all week and prepares. And a lot of you have heard this story, but I'm going to say it again. Just a few years ago when we started out and started the church, we did everything by CDs or DVDs. All the worship was done by DVD. And one Sunday I got up and I just announced that, hey, starting next Sunday we're going to have live worship. She got so excited because she thought, I went out and found somebody. So after service and everybody was gone, she said, who'd you get to lead worship? I said, you. She said, but I don't even know how to play. I said, you got a week to learn. It's a whole week. How hard can it be? A keyboard's only that long. You can figure that out in a week. We've come a long way. Disappointments. Philippians 4:4. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. The reason I started talking about worship is because of what she said at the beginning that I made her say again. Y'all remember that? Because she had no idea what I'm preaching. She has no idea. And she got up there led by the Spirit and started talking about rejoicing and make sure you have your joy. And I wanted to make sure you heard that. And I wanted to actually to point it out to you just so you know that you're on the right page. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Re is defined as a prefix, meaning to return to a previous state. It means to get back where you were. So if we're going to rejoice, that means we have to get back in joy, right? That means that somewhere along the line we step out. You ever step out of joy? Yeah. I do. Look, I drive to town. Guess what? Lose my joy. There are roads that I avoid because I know if I go down that road, I'm probably going to lose my joy. But I can't do that. The temptation's there. So when I lose it, what do I have to do? I have to quickly find something, somehow, to get back in it. Because if I lose joy, I lose quality of life. Okay? So to rejoice, or to get back to your previous state of joy, you had to be there first of all. You can't get back to somewhere you've never been. You can't return to where you've never been. So we have to get joy. Then we have to make sure if we get out of joy, we get back to joy. If we're told to rejoice, that means we must get back in joy, like I just said. I'm sorry. Paul was telling us the church at Philippi, get your joy back. And in case you didn't hear me or understand me, or you failed to see the importance, I'll say it again more emphatically. Get your joy back. He didn't say it twice just because they needed a filler in the word. He was trying to be emphatic. Make sure you're listening to me. Get your joy back. And in case you missed it, get your joy back. Don't go on without it. It's like American Express. Don't leave home without it. Make sure you have it. Nehemiah 8:10. Why is it so important that he wants us to have joy? Then he said unto me, go your way, eat the fat, drink the sweet, send portions to them whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy unto the Lord. Neither be ye sorry, for the joy of the Lord is what? Joy of the Lord is your strength. Look, we said it over and over here, but the devil's not after your stuff. The devil could care less about your stuff. It always feels like he's attacking your stuff, right? But he's not after your stuff. What's he going to do with it? What would he do with your finances? He lives in the spirit realm. Your finances are no good there, but will he attack them? Yeah, but he don't care about them. What's he care about your health? But will he attack it? What's he care about your relationship with your kids or your spouse? But will he attack it? What's he care about with your attitude throughout the day? But will he attack it? Absolutely. Why? Does he care about any of those things? No. What's he trying to do? Steal your joy. There ain't nothing going to steal my joy. Ain't that what we just sang? Yeah. We sing it, but we leave and forget it. Because the devil knows if he can steal your joy, guess what? He got your strength. And if he got your strength, he can plunder your life. What are you going to do to stop him if you don't have any strength? Doesn't the word say, first if you're going to plunder a strong man's house, first you got to bind the strong man. Well, what's the devil do when he do? What does he do when he steals your joy? He binds the strong man. Now the strong man, and that's you, can't do anything because he lost his joy, therefore he lost his strength. Now he can't even resist the devil, and the devil can plunder his whole life. So why is Paul so emphatic about make sure you stay in joy? Because when you lose it, you're apt to lose a lot more. Most of our joy is lost because of disappointments. Disappointment is defined as sadness felt due to failed expectation. Failed expectation. We all experience disappointments in life, specifically in outcomes, in other people, and in ourselves. That's where most of our disappointments come from. Outcomes, other people, and ourselves. People who continually allow themselves to be disappointed go through life with no joy and end up bitter and living a defeated life. Everybody say, that's not me. I'm not going to be bitter. And I'm not going to be defeated. Because I'm going to stay in joy. Because I'm going to refuse to be disappointed. Don't just say it, mean it. I'm going to refuse to be disappointed. That's hard to do. Why is it hard to do? Because I live with me. And I disappoint me continuously. And then, if I can't do it on my own, I got other people around me. And they'll help me. And then guess what? I'm trusting for some outcomes. And when they don't look like what I expected them to, I have a tendency to get disappointed about that too. And if I focus on the things that disappoint me, guess how I go through life? Defeated, disappointed, with no joy. And when I don't have any joy, I don't have any strength, and the devil just whip my tail every day. Outcomes. Here's some information that can set you free from disappointments and empower you to live a life of joy. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Outcome is none of your business.
Come on.
Wow. Outcome's none of your business because you can't control it. You can't control outcome. But I thought if I did this, the result would be this. Well, you did it, and that wasn't the result you got. So what do? And we pout. And we go through life disgruntled because it should have worked. It was supposed to work. They told me it would work, and it didn't work. Right? Didn't work out like I thought. We have no power over outcomes. Outcomes are beyond our level of control. I can never control the outcome. I could do my best, but the outcome might be totally different. And I can't control it because there's so many other things involved. There's so many other things that are out there that control the outcome. The delusion is that if we do the right thing, then the outcome will be as we expected. But that's a delusion. That's not truth. The disciples did the right thing, but the outcome wasn't as they expected. You think any of them expected the outcome they got? We could go down the list of those guys. That ain't the outcome they thought. Lord, I thought if I followed you. Well, that ain't the outcome. You think Paul expected the outcomes he got? You think Paul going about preaching the word and doing exactly what the Lord, you think the outcome that he expected was shipwreck, imprisonment, being stoned. You think that's the outcome he expected? But what did he do? Did he cry and moan and complain and whine and talk about how it should have happened and it didn't happen, but he thought it would happen? Well, you don't see that in the Word. But you do see a man full of joy. You do see a man up at midnight after he'd been tied to a whipping post and beat, chained to a wall in a prison, standing in his own everything, praising God. At midnight, that's significant of the darkest hour. His darkest hour, and he's worshiping and he's praising because he's not going to lose his joy. And walls start shaking and doors come open and jailers getting saved and revival breaks out and because he wouldn't lose his joy. But what if he'd have been chained to that wall and said, this ain't the outcome I expected. This ain't how it's, God, you said, you told me that if I did this, that everything's going to work together for my good, right? Ain't that what you said? But in the middle of it, he couldn't see the end, could he? So he thought the beating in the dungeon and all of that, he thought that was the outcome. That's where we mess up when we start thinking outcome, because we think it's over, and really we might just be in the middle of something. I don't know. I like my house now, but there were stages of it being built that it didn't look too good, right? And if I'd have just walked in the middle and said, I don't like this at all, well, I don't know what the outcome was. It wasn't as it looked that day. They might not have been working on that day. I could have just assumed they were finished. So what kind of mess did they leave me with? And often we get that with God and we think, here's the outcome, and it wasn't the outcome after all. There was a whole other chapter coming, and everything changed. Though the outcomes were often not as Paul expected, he affected the world more than anyone other than Jesus. Can you argue with that? He had a greater impact on this world than anybody other than Jesus, in my opinion, because he wrote most of our Bible, and we preach about him today, and churches all over the world are preaching about him right now, things that he did. Yeah. But what if he'd have gave up when the outcome wasn't as how he expected it to be? Well, I don't know what would happen. I don't know how his life would have ended. It wouldn't have been the same. Disappointment is an emotional response to an expectation that we create. I'm only disappointed when I didn't get an expectation that I created. I created that expectation. I created the expectation and the outcome. And when it's not the outcome that I created in here, that's where my disappointment comes from. It wasn't the outcome that God told me I was going to have. I can expect those, right? But when it happens in here, and I create this picture of what it's going to look like, and it don't look like that, and it's out of my control, I can't let myself get broke down over it. I still have to stay in joy, knowing that this too, somehow, God's going to work together for my good, because I love him and I'm called according to his purpose. Isn't that what the promise is? Yeah. But I can't quit in the middle. Most of our expectation comes from us trying to validate ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you ever doubt that, come with me and we'll go hang around some preachers. We want to talk about trying to validate ourselves, man. Because we got a number in our head that we got to achieve. We got to have so many people in our congregation, or how are they going to know we're really called? You see what I'm saying? I can talk about them because I am one. But it's wherever we are, well, all of us, wherever we are, we get these numbers or this picture, and if I can't achieve that, then I'm not validated. My calling's not even validated. My work here, it wasn't even validated because I didn't get the outcome that I expected. And it's really all about validation. We feel that we're not validated as parents if our children don't achieve certain things or behave a certain way. We don't feel validated. Guess what? My parents had 4 kids, raised us all pretty much the same. I'll say that because they're not here. If they were here, I'll say, no, you raised them 2 youngest ones different. But guess what? We all turned out different. They raised 4 of us all the same, in the same home. and they got 4 different results. And if you have more than one kid, you've probably seen the same thing. Treat them the same, give them the same, pray for them the same, teach them the same. They turn out different. You don't have any control over that. All you can do is do your best. Because none of us got a training course on how to be parents, did we? At least I didn't. They sent me home with a kid, and I said, what'd I do with it? I was just trying not to kill him, try not to drop him, try not to break him. Natalie was, you want to hold him? No, I don't. Too fragile. I'll wait till he's 4, then I'll carry him when he's 4. If you don't believe that, go to a T-ball game. If you don't think parents are trying to validate themselves through their kids, go to a T-ball game. What do them kids want to do? Chase bumblebees and pick flowers and dig in their nose and run to the concession stand. That's all they want to do. Who's doing all the hollering and arguing with the calls with the umpire? Look, I used to umpire. The older the kids got, the better it was. There was very little pressure the older they got. But when it was them little ones, call their baby out. Call them out. See if mama don't. They might have been out by 3 steps, but mama's coming to meet you on the field if you call her baby out. Go to a T-ball game. You see parents try to validate themselves through their kids constantly. I've seen fights break out over little kids' baseball game. Kids still playing over there catching bees. They're playing with kids on other teams because that's their buddy. They don't care. But mom and daddy's worried about who won. Look, I'm as bad as any of them. When our kids played and they were too young, they didn't keep score. Guess what? I kept score. And when we got in the car on the way home, I told them you either won or you lost. And this was the score because I kept it right here. Because my kid's going to be an athlete. Right? I was an athlete. My parents were athletes. My grandparents were athletes. We all athletes. You're going to be an athlete too, boy. Validating. Validating.
Was that an apology you just did?
Yeah, can I kind of. I still have expectation. I'm trying to get over it, though. This isn't just for you. Look, it's got to come to me first. It's obviously something God's dealing with me about, or He wouldn't have given it to me to give you. You're just getting hit with a side effect.
Hallelujah.
That's right. It's just a validation. Yeah, that's right. For many to be validated on their job, they have to reach a certain goal or a certain level. And if they don't reach it, they all of a sudden don't feel validated anymore because they had to take that next step on the ladder. But when somebody else got the promotion and they didn't expect that outcome, it destroys them because now I can't be validated. They didn't see my value. They didn't see how much I was worth to them. They didn't see what I did. They don't appreciate me. All of a sudden our validation's lost because we didn't achieve a goal. We didn't get the outcome that we expected to get. I expected when I showed up early and I gave them my best, I expected that they were going to treat me better and I expected they were going to give me that promotion. But when we don't get it, all of a sudden now I don't feel validated anymore. I don't feel, look, I've seen it in church for years. I've seen it in young ministers coming up. That they were ready and the pastor's just saying, hold on a minute. Next thing you know, they left and they went to another church that would put them in a position. And guess what? It all came unraveled. When if they would stay where they were being trained up and groomed and prepared, it would have worked out for them. But they wanted to be validated. They wanted to go where somebody was going to appreciate me and somebody's going to let me speak and somebody, well, you weren't ready. Your validation was coming, but it wasn't ready. So when they didn't get the outcome they expected, they left, and everything came unraveled. We become disappointed or lose our joy when the outcome isn't what we hoped it would be. All right? So we're going to get over outcomes. Everybody say, I'm getting over my outcomes. Because I can't control them. Can't control it. Look, Jesus went into his own hometown. He'd been healing the sick, raising the dead, feeding the multitude. He goes to his own hometown, and what was the outcome? It said he could do no great work there. Was that the outcome he expected? He expected what he got everywhere else, I'm sure. But he didn't get it. So did he give up? They didn't validate me as the Messiah. I passed Messiah school with A's, and they didn't see my value. I give up. That's not what he did. He walked on. He went somewhere else. And he brought the good news. He went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed of the devil. Right? He didn't quit when he didn't get the outcome he wasn't looking for. Refuse to be disappointed by others. Nobody look at the one next to you. Don't look at your... This is not a good time to eyeball your spouse. Do not be disappointed in others. We become disappointed when in other people who we don't have any control over act in a way that we feel they shouldn't. We become disappointed in other people when they act in a way that we feel they shouldn't, and we don't have any control over them. So why am I going to let it steal my joy when it's something I can't control anyway?
That's right.
Look, I can train my kids the best I can. I can teach them everything I can. I can whip them when they need to be whipped. I can bless them when they need to be blessed. And guess what? Sometimes when they go out there, they're just going to act stupid anyway. In spite of everything I did. I can't control that. Can you? Now, we can have a talk when they come home. But what they did, they did. And I couldn't control it. I can't control people in my family. Dear Lord, sometimes we all wish we could. But we can't. They're going to act up regardless. They're going to act in ways that you don't like anyway. Look, my family's not here, so I'm saying all kind of stuff. You just got to have to do a whole lot of editing. But the truth is, we can't control people. You can't control people you work with. You can't control anybody. Look, we can't only control ourselves.
Amen.
I can't control me. How am I going to control somebody? It's a full-time job trying to control me. For me. That ain't even counting her help. It takes two of us a full-time job and we still can't control me. How am I going to control somebody else? I can't do it. You can't do it. So I can't allow myself to be disappointed when they don't do what I want or what I expect of them.
Might not have been the right thing anyway.
Man, but I can't let it rob my joy. I can't let it steal my joy. Now all of a sudden, not only did they not do what they're supposed to do, now my life, I've lost quality of life because I'm disappointed in them. And I couldn't control it. Avoid feeling disappointed. Refuse the urge to become disappointed with other people. People are complex, fickle, emotional, emotionally damaged, self-focused, and most of the time, they're only thinking about themselves. I'm not talking about everybody, but most people around us. People are fickle. Have you figured that out? I'm fickle. You're probably fickle too. Wouldn't you like to be? I'm fickle, you're fickle. Wouldn't you like to be fickle too? No, that's not good. But look, just because they like something today, that don't mean they're going to like it tomorrow. I had a dear, close pastor friend of mine said somebody came to their church and said, look, I'm not coming here anymore. I'm leaving your church. Well, why? Well, because just last Sunday you said something I don't like. He said, well, in the 30 years you've been here, did I say anything you did like? Well, yeah, but you're going to leave because I said one thing you didn't like? Because people, they back and forth all over. We all are. Just because I liked it today, that don't mean I'm going to like it tomorrow. Just because, you follow me. Plus, we all have some form of emotional scarring because we've all been through life. We all went to school, and we all got picked on. Right? Somebody called to something, and that little recorder in here, it captured it. So when the opportunity comes and we can step out in faith, that recorder goes off and says, no, you remember what they said about you? That's really who you are. So let me just step back. Let me just keep my mouth shut because I remember what they said about me. I remember who they said I was, what I couldn't do. They pointed out all my limitations. Because kids are good at that, aren't they? But we all have some degree of emotional issue. We all got some mental damage. Because we just go through life and we pick it up. That's why we're supposed to transform this to the mind of Christ, right? I'm supposed to trade my way of thinking for his way of thinking because mine's damaged. We all were involved in the fall, and we all landed on our head, and we got some issues. We don't think right all the time. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. You ever wake up in a bad mood? You don't even know why. Why are you so mad? I don't know. Just this week one day, I was snapping at her. For what? I don't know. What did she do? Nothing. Just how I felt. Because that's how I woke up. So I had to go to her and apologize. Look, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just the mood I was in. Because people are fickle. Refuse to focus on what they do, what they don't do, and how they act. Refuse to focus on that. Refuse to focus on what they do, what they don't do, and how they act, because it'll steal your joy. I know your spouse might do something that one thing they do that just gets to you. Don't focus on that. Focus on what they do that you like. There's that one thing that you wish they would do, but they don't ever do it. Unless you ask them, and then it don't mean as much. Don't focus on that. Focus on all the good things they do. And you can't control how they act. So get over it. Don't let it steal your joy. It's not just spouses, it's people in general everywhere across the board. Don't let your joy be robbed by the actions of others. If we put our expectation in other people, we will live a life of disappointment. If we put our expectation, I'm saying it again because I want you to get it. If we put our expectation in other people, we will live a life of disappointment. If I expect her to bring me joy, I'm going to be disappointed. If she expects me to provide her with joy, she's going to be disappointed. I have to do that for me on my own. She has to do that for herself on her own. Because if she's dependent on me, guess what? I might do it today and tomorrow I might let her down. I might do it at 8 a.m., but at 10 o'clock she's mad at me. Okay? Vice versa. Works both ways. We can't depend on other people to provide us with joy. We have to get in the presence of God, get that joy stirred up, which brings strength. Think about the Lord. Think about what He's done for you. Think about the goodness of God. Think about the blessing in your life. Meditate on these things. And then all of a sudden that joy starts coming back. Micah 7:5. Do not trust a neighbor. Look, that don't mean lock up all your stuff. Maybe some of us, I don't know, but that means don't put your trust in them. Okay? Don't put your trust in a neighbor. Put no confidence in a friend. Even with the woman who lies in your embrace, guard the words of your lips. Was he saying don't trust your spouse? Not completely. He's saying don't put your trust in them. Because if you put your trust in them, there's going to come a day when they let you down. Right? Have you found that to be true? Look, don't put your trust in me as your pastor. Because there's going to be a day I'm going to let you down. There's going to be a day, if you have all these expectations for me, there's going to be a day when I don't meet them. Right? There's going to be a day when I don't meet them. And then you're disappointed. And then you lose your joy. Same with husbands and wives. That's what the Lord's saying. If I place my trust in her, look, do I trust her? Yeah. She signs my name better than me. So yeah, I trust her. But I don't put my trust in her. There's a difference there. You get that? My trust is in the Lord. Okay? Psalm 62:5. My soul waits silently for God alone. God who? God alone. For my expectation is from Him. My expectations are in God and Him alone because He's the only one I found to be faithful. Completely. In all things. All the time. All the time. So the prophet Micah was saying, put your trust and hope, or do not put your trust and hope in man, because they'll always let you down. My expectations are in the Lord, because He alone has been found faithful. Live in the moment. Enjoy the adventure of going through life. There's nobody that I can think of in the world that enjoys the moment and the adventure of going through life than this man right here. Nobody. I don't know anybody that enjoys life more than that man. That's why he just bubbles over sitting right there. I just love hearing him during service. He just gets excited about little things. Just gets plumb excited because there's a joy there. Enjoy life. Enjoy the little moments of life. If you're always looking down the road at an expectation, you missed where you are right now. You missed it. I think about that with our boys. They're grown. And I think about where'd it go? Because I was always looking at one day and in the future, and we're preparing for this, and we're building for that, and we're planning for this. And then I missed all the little things, it seems like. And I would do anything to be able to go back when they were both little and enjoy all those little moments. But I can't. We were with Matt and Ashley the other day, and I told them, I love hearing those little baby noises. You know what I'm talking about? Them little grunts and squeaks and all those little noises that they make. Enjoy that. You can't get that back. Y'all will be hearing it in just a few days. Yeah.
We were there last night.
Y'all there? Yeah. But enjoy the moment. Enjoy where you are right now. You don't ever get it back. Look, y'all going to get me all sentimental and teary-eyed and everything. Let me move on. Enjoy the adventure of life. Life is an adventure. If your life's not an adventure, you're doing it wrong. If your life's not an adventure, man, you're missing out. There's so much out there we can enjoy. There's so much out there. It can just be a thrill ride. If it's not, turn loose of something. Just enjoy it. We all have a working relationship with God that's on a need-to-know basis. God don't tell you everything. He just tells you what you need to know for right now. He don't tell you what you need to know next week, just right now. He only tells us what we need to know in that moment because therefore it's a walk in faith. If he told me the beginning and the end and all the steps in between, there'd be no faith. We're just going to do it. But when he just tells me, all right, now here's the next step, and we take that. And now here's the next step, and we take that. That's faith. That's trusting him step by step in everything. Maybe nobody told us this when we gave our life to the Lord, when we were born again, but what we actually did, we signed a blank contract. And we're trusting him to fill it out as we go. All we said is, I'll do it. We didn't even know what it was. We signed the dotted line, and it was a blank piece of paper, and then God fills it out every day and expects us to follow. You may not realize that's what you did, but honestly, that's what the born-again experience is all about, saying, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to follow you. I put my life in your hands. I don't live for me anymore. I live for you. And what's that mean? I don't know. He's going to tell you every day. You with me? If he told us our future, it may destroy us. If he told you your future, it may destroy you. If he had told the disciples their future before they could grew in spiritual maturity and all of that, they might have renounced him. They may have. If they weren't spiritually mature enough to handle where they were going to end up, and if he had told Peter where he was going to end up on a cross upside down, what if he'd have told him that when he was still tempted to go back to fishing? But as he grew into it, there came a day when he said, no, I won't even be crucified like my Lord. I'm not even worthy to be crucified like him. You crucify me upside down. And we can get into that gory detail, but we're not. Do I think that's the original plan God had for them? No, I don't. But we're not going to get into that right now either. But I think there could have been another way. I really do. It goes back to the words of our mouth. And there was a day when they came before him. And he said, where I'm going, you can't follow him. Oh, yes, we can. Yes, we can. We want it. He said, my cup, you can't drink from my cup. Yes, I can. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes when the Lord says, ho, 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 don't say that. And our flesh rises up and says, yeah, I'm going to say it. Sometimes we pay consequences for things that we said when the Lord's leading us not to. Anyway, that's another sermon for another day. John 16:13. But when the Spirit of truth has come, and everybody can say he came, right? Because this is pre-Acts chapter 2. We live on this side of Acts chapter 2. But when the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. He will not speak on his own. He'll speak only what he hears. And he'll tell you what is yet to come. He'll tell you the next step. Who's the he here? That's the Holy Spirit, right? So the Holy Spirit, this is Jesus promising the disciples that the Holy Spirit was going to come. He said when he does, he's going to guide you. He's going to lead your life. He's going to speak to you. And he's going to tell you what the next step is. He's going to tell you what you need to know today. He ain't going to tell you everything in your future, but what you need to know today, he's going to tell you if you listen to him. John 14:26. But the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything that I've said to you. So there's that leading again. There's that promise to have an advocate with the Father that's going to lead you, right? That paraclete that lives in us, that helper, that the one that reveals the Word, the one that leads us. The peace that Jesus promised comes as we abide in him. Abide means to remain continually, unmovable, steadfast, remaining in what and where he is appointed for us to do right now. Not one day, but right now. Remain where he's put you right now. Remain doing what he's called you to do right now. Remain taking that step of faith that he called you to now, not wondering what's coming in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, but what's the step for today? Enjoy the now. Value life learning. Learn from others' mistakes because you don't have time to make them all. I don't have time to make all the mistakes, so I have to learn some from other people. If we're wise, that's the difference in a wise person and a fool. A fool has to make all the mistakes on their own. A wise person learns from other people's mistakes. God usually gives us what we need rather than what we want. I'm not saying he doesn't give us what we want. He promised to give us the desires of our heart. But he's going to make sure we have what we need, as any good, loving father does. My youngest son, if he would have been allowed to, he would have lived on junk food his whole life. He would have survived on honey buns, oatmeal pies, fudge rounds, candy bars. When we go hunting, I've seen him and my little brother spend $26 on candy in the convenience store to go on a 2-hour duck hunt. $26 on candy bars. And just eat one after another. And I'm thinking, dear Lord, if I eat half of one, I'm nauseated. But a kid will do that. But a parent knows they can't live on that, right? So a parent says, no, you also have, you can have a little candy, but also you have to eat these vegetables, you need to eat this fruit, you need to eat this meat, because that's what they need. That may not be what they want, but it's what they need. How would a loving father be any less? How would a loving God be any less? Does he give us the things we want? Yeah, in moderation, but he also gives us, make sure we have what we need. Even though we may be kicking and screaming about what we want. Like a 4-year-old on the cereal aisle. I put this next comment in all capitals with a whole bunch of exclamation points. Not because you can see it, but that was for me. Learn to trust God's character more than your experiences. Learn to trust the character of God more than what you're going through. Because if what you're going through doesn't reflect God's character, he's obviously doing something that you haven't seen yet. So you have to put your trust in his character and not what you see. We only see things on the surface. God sees the beginning and the end. He wants to bless us and help us, but it may not seem like it when we're in the middle of it. There's been some things I went through that it didn't look like God was trying to help me. It looked like He'd forsaken me. Even though His promise is He'll never leave me or forsake me. But in the middle of it, it seemed that He had. But then on the backside, when we came through, we said, oh, now I can see how that was God. But right in the middle, man, that didn't look like God at all. So I have to trust in His character more than I trust in what I'm seeing today. Okay? This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying don't be disappointed in outcomes. We may see it as the end, but we really might be just in the middle. And it might look bad in the middle, but when we get to the end, it looks great. Okay? So don't get disappointed by the outcome that you see, because it's probably not the end. It's when we look back that we can see what God was doing all along. We have to trust in all things work together for our good because we love Him, in spite of what it looks like in the moment. We have to trust that God's blessing us in spite of what it looks like in the moment. Can I share just a little bit about y'all's trip when y'all went up north, about the tires and everything?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We were having lunch the other day, and they were telling me when they went to Alaska on an adventure. How many flat tires did y'all have along the way? 7 flat tires.
We had 8, though.
You had
One tire didn't get flat.
You had 8 tires?
Yeah.
And you went through 7 of them?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know for me, if I have one, man, I get aggravated. And probably nobody wants to be around me, because I'm going to be kicking that tire and fussing. It'll go away, but just at first, you know. Because that's not the outcome I expected. I expected to make it there without any trouble. But when you have 7, there become a point in time in my life where I'm thinking, maybe I ain't supposed to be on this trip. And Lord, I feel like I'm stepping out into where you lead me, but, you know, 7's a little extreme. But if they hadn't had, here's the thing, they could have got aggravated, they could have turned around, went home, they could have done all kind of things. But God delayed their time long enough to change 7 tires to put them right in a place where they met a person who blessed them financially, who blessed them with friendship, who's blessed them, and it wasn't a one-time thing. They've established a relationship with someone they would have never met. If they would have had 6 tires, they wouldn't have met him. 6 flats, they wouldn't have met him. They would have been ahead of him and never met him in that parking lot where they were. You see what I'm saying? But it took 7 to stall them long enough to make that encounter happen. Don't get discouraged when things aren't going like you thought they would, because God might just be setting you up anyway. He might be setting you up for a blessing. You might have had a flat just to stall you long enough where you missed that accident. 7 of them is extreme. He could have told me to stop for a burger. It's what me and God, we had that talk. You could have, instead of flats, you could have just told me to stop for a burger. I'd have done that willingly. I'd have been happy. We could have still met the guy. So we talked about not being disappointed in outcomes, not being disappointed with other people. Now comes the tough one, ourself. Because, you know, I forgive easy. And that's one of the testimonies that Natalie shared about when she came into our family. She said, you know, she saw a family that would have our disagreements, would have our arguments, would have our fights. But when it was all over, we hugged, we apologized, we went and had fun together, and there wasn't any grudges. And that's one of the things that she says impressed her about our family. So I can forgive other people really easy. I've forgiven people that have done some pretty dirty things to me. And now I can say I've forgiven them, and we can be friends, and I'm okay with it. But you know, sometimes I have a hard time forgiving me, because I can hold myself to a pretty high standard, and I can expect a lot of myself. And when I don't come through with what I expect me to do, I can sure enough feel defeated and disappointed and really let down. and I can really beat myself up. And that's another area that we have to hold each other accountable, because I'll see her beating on herself and she'll see me beating on me, and we'll have to snap each other out of it. Because, really, I have to be able to forgive me. How am I going to forgive someone else if I can't even forgive me? Because with other people, it's easy to forgive, because I always come back, well, I don't know what they were going through. I don't know how they were raised. I don't know their situation. I don't know what was going on in their life. Their kids might have been acting crazy. They might have been in a fight with their wife. They might be going through a financial thing. I don't know. So it's easy for me to forgive them. But I know what I'm going through. And I know what I have. And I know all of those things. So it's a lot harder for me to forgive me. All right? If we go through life disappointed in ourselves, we cannot live a life of joy. And we won't have any strength. I can't be disappointed in me either. You can't be disappointed in you either. You'll lose your joy, and then you'll lose your strength. And like I said, the devil will plunder your life. Don't measure yourself by anyone else. That's where the disappointment comes from. Don't measure yourself by anyone else. Remember, we're talking about how to get your joy back. Comparison is the world system, and it's not a kingdom principle. I'm going to say it again. Comparison is the world system, but it's not a kingdom principle. Comparison will cause a woman to hate her own body, because they compare themselves to a woman they see on TV that's not even real. They compare themselves to someone who they see on the street that they don't know what they go through to look like that. They compare themselves to all kind of things. And I say they because women tend to do it in the physical more than guys, but we still do it too. We compare. We compare. We compare our business. We compare our ministry. We compare our kids. We compare ourselves. We compare our homes. We compare our vehicles. We compare our dog. We compare our whatever. It's always a comparison. Women tend to do it more with their own physical body. Men, we tend to do it more with our stuff. Okay? But it's still a comparison. And I know people who live a life that is hell on earth because everything's a comparison, and they always have to have more. And then all of a sudden they're strapped with something they can't even pay for, but they still got to have more. That's grueling. And if I can't ever have enough to compare, I can never have joy. I've got to find contentment in where I am, what I've got, how I look, and I just have to be okay with it. Look, I'm not saying you shouldn't work out so you can have a body like me. I'm not saying we shouldn't take care of ourselves. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm not saying we shouldn't want nice things. I'm not. I think we should. I think we should want to look good. I think we should want to dress good. I'm talking about comparing ourselves and having to have what they have, having to have what she looks like, what he looks like, what you know what I mean? I know I'm beating that to death, but I want to get the point across. We can't compare. We can't compare. Because when we start comparing, we can always find somebody that we don't measure up to. Always. I can always find someone that's got something that I don't have, and I can use it to steal my joy. Look, we go to a ministers' conference. I sit around and talk to other pastors, and you know what happens? So how many people you got? What's it matter? All of them is called to be there. What's it matter? What's it matter if we have a ministry where we reach 1 or we reach 10,000? What's it matter? I'll show you how much it matters to God. Philip's preaching revival, right? Preaching revival. People are getting saved by the thousands. There's miracles taking place, right? What's God call him to do? Leave there. For what, God? We're going to go to the desert. Why am I going to leave the masses to go to the desert? Because there's one Ethiopian eunuch who doesn't even have the ability to be fruitful in the natural, doesn't even have the ability to reproduce in the natural. And God said, I'm just as concerned with the Ethiopian eunuch in the middle of the desert as I am with the masses in the middle of revival in town. So God sends him on this race to catch up with his chariot so he can lead this one Ethiopian eunuch to the Lord. Now, what if there had been another preacher coming the other way and said, how big a congregation you got? Just this one eunuch? But was it what God called him to do? That's what matters. I remember somebody, we got into that somewhere one time, I don't remember. And the Lord brought something to me, you know. I'm not saying anything negative about Joel Osteen. I'm just saying that he's got a big church. And somebody asked me how many people we had, and I told them how many people we have. And, you know, and I said, but, you know, Joel Osteen runs however many thousands, but he's in a city of a couple of million. I'm in Sweet Lake with 50 people. Yeah. By comparison, yeah. I'm doing better than him.
Way ahead.
By comparison, we got more. We're reaching a greater percentage of the population of our area. When we live comparing ourselves, our children, our careers, our marriages, our ministries, our Christian walk, we will live a life of disappointment. I've had that talk with so many people, and I just want to be on the level that you're on. Well, great. That's great, but you can't compare yourself to me, to Joe Blow down the road, to your next door neighbor. You can't do that. You got to meet God where you are. Let's work on the level you're on. Then when the time comes, God elevates you to another level. But you can't get, and then I want to say, why do you want to be on the level I'm at? I don't even want to be on this level. There's another one I want to be on. You do what you're called to do where you are right now, then another level comes. What? Anyway. Can't live comparing ourselves to other people. Your outcome doesn't matter. Your achievements don't matter. Nor does your opinion of others. It's all about whether or not you're pleasing to God. If the life that you're living is pleasing in the sight of God, then it doesn't matter how you stack up. And it doesn't matter what they think about you. Remind me of that. I'm going to need some reminding of that. It doesn't matter. If you're pleasing to God, if the life that you're living, if where you are is pleasing to God, what's it matter how you stack up? It doesn't. You with me? Because if you're always looking at where you don't stack up, you lost your joy. And now you're disgruntled because you don't measure up. And now you don't have any strength. So that level you want to get to, you can't get to. Because you lost the strength it took to get there. Psalms 62:6. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. Man, I love that. I love that scripture. If He alone is my rock and my salvation, then who do I have to please other than Him? Who do I have to please? Who do I have to validate myself to? Who do I have to measure up to if He alone is my salvation? And my what? If He's my defense, why do I need to be defensive? Ooh. Why do I need to be defensive if He's my defense? You ever come under attack? I learned last night about an attack I was under I didn't even know about. Till somebody else told me, man, you know what they doing and saying about you? So what can I do? I could get defensive. I could call them. It's what I'd like to do. I could lay hands on them. It's what I'd really like to do. I can't do that. I can't get defensive. He has to be my defense. He has to be my defense. Because if I get defensive, guess what? I mess everything up. But if I let Him lead my defense, it'll all work out. And it'll be okay. And I won't be so disappointed in myself.
There you go.
Don't demand the outcome that you expect. Don't put hope in other people. Don't measure yourself by comparison. If we live free of disappointment, we will be much happier. We can remain in the joy of the Lord, which is our strength. A joyful life of godly strength and a life of victory that glorifies God. We can have a life of victory that glorifies God, but we have to be strong spiritually. And to be strong spiritually, we have to live a life of joy. And to live a life of joy, we can't live disappointed. You see how it goes hand in hand? So it's a sequence of events, that has to take place, and it starts with disappointment. And I have to get over them. Look, I know people that are old people, still disappointed about their parents, still disappointed about a coach, still disappointed about all kinds of things. And it robs their life. It robs them of joy. Don't go through life disappointed. It's not as easy as saying, just get over it. I understand it's not that easy. But look to God. Look to the blessing of God in your life and let that stir up joy. Look to the good things. We all have good things, right? Hey, I'm looking at you. I know you have good things. Look to the good things in your life. Let it stir up joy in you, and you feel strength starting to build in your life, all right? Look, this isn't behavior modification like I talked about. This is transformation that starts in here. It starts in here. Joy's in here. Joy's not how I feel. I can have joy and be not feeling too great. Joy's an assurance that my God's in control. He never leaves me. He never forsakes me. All things work together for my good. That's what brings joy. Amen.